My name is Evelyn Mara Vale, and before you judge me for what I'm finally ready to reveal, I need you to understand something. Confession isn't easy for someone like me. It isn't permitted, it isn't safe. I wasn't raised to explain myself to outsiders, and especially not to Christians. For most of my life, silence was my survival. Secrecy was my armor, and truth was a currency too expensive to spend. But something has been changing inside me, around me, and above all, in the world itself. December has returned again, and with it, the old pressure, the old pulse, the old pull. And I can feel it tightening around my ribs like invisible hands demanding obedience. I didn't always know I was different. When I was a little girl, I thought the strange sensations I experienced were normal, that everyone felt the air thicken when someone prayed nearby, that everyone sensed a cold ripple when Christmas lights flickered on, or felt that deep vibrating hum beneath the ground when churches opened their doors for midnight services. I thought everyone could smell faith the way others smell fire or rain, sharp, bright, metallic, almost painfully clean. But most people don't smell anything. Most people walk through December unaware of the unseen war happening inches from their warm lives. I remember the first time I realized I wasn't like them. I was 9. Snow was falling, not softly, but angrily, the way snow does when it wants to carve silence into the land. The night was dark, except for one small house down the hill from where I stood. In its window glowed a single candle, and around it a small family sang softly, voices carrying a warmth that didn't belong to winter. The song, gentle and unwavering, pierced something inside me. I didn't know the words then, but I know them now. Silent night. As they sang, a pressure built behind my eyes. My fingers trembled, my pulse quickened, and I felt something ancient and territorial wake beneath my skin, like a sleeping animal suddenly sensing a threat. My breath clouded before me, but the air wasn't cold anymore. It was charged, alive. A whisper, one I could not understand but could not ignore, pushed through my thoughts. Go toward them, not to join, not to listen, to interrupt. The instinct wasn't born from anger. It was reflex, primal and automatic, like pulling your hand away from fire or shielding your heart from a blade. Something in me recognized something in them, and the recognition felt like collision. That night was the first time I heard the word witch. Not from my family, they already knew what I was, but from the Christians in the house. The father stepped outside as I drew near, candlelight spilling from the doorway behind him. He didn't shout, he didn't tremble. He simply looked at me as if he could see through skin and bone into everything I was not ready to confront. You should go home, little one, he said gently. This season isn't meant for conflict. Conflict. I didn't understand the word then, but I do now. My bloodline remembers what history has forgotten, and December, whether you believe it or not, is the month where the old forces clash beneath the surface of every carol, prayer, ritual, and flame. And I suppose now, after years of resisting, fighting, obeying, denying, and finally surrendering to the truth, I'm ready to say it out loud. We are drawn to Christians in December, pulled to them like tides to the moon, whether we want to be or not. And sometimes that pull becomes an attack, not because we hate them, because something ancient demands it. And I am finally tired of pretending I don't feel it. December never creeps in quietly, not for us. For most of the world, it begins with decorations, warm drinks, laughter, and the hopeful weight of traditions. But for witches, especially those born into old bloodlines, December arrives like a pressure drop before a storm. The air changes first. It becomes sharper, denser, as if carrying invisible threads of power that coil around the earth. Animals sense it too. Birds grow restless, and wolves howl not at hunger, but at memory. Even the moon seems to shine colder, not dimmer, just more watchful, as if recalling centuries of conflict woven into the winter sky. I always feel it in my bones before anywhere else. The subtle ache in my wrists, the throbbing pulse behind my sternum, signs that the magical balance is shifting. Some call it instinct, others call it the curse. I've never known which word is truer. All I know is that when the first breath of December touches the world, every witch, no matter how young, no matter how restrained, feels the ancient inheritance stirring. People assume winter weakens magic, but that's a lie whispered into history by those who feared truth. Winter focuses it. When the world sleeps, what lies hidden awakens, and December is the peak, where stillness becomes power and power becomes intention. It's why spells feel stronger, why dreams grow vivid, why even those who don't believe in magic report chills and strange shadows at the edge of their senses. December thins the boundary between the seen and unseen, not enough to tear it open, but enough that both sides feel each other's breath. It's always around the first Advent lighting that tension sharpens. The moment a match strikes to ignite that first candle, something in the air pulses, like a vibration moving through layers of reality. Christians say light symbolizes hope. For witches, it is a signal, not an invitation, never that, but a declaration, a reminder that their faith is gathering, strengthening, reaching upward. That's when the atmosphere shifts from uneasy to alert. I wish I could say the tension is mutual hatred, but it isn't that simple. It's older, deeper, like two magnets pulled toward or pushed apart by forces neither one controls. Some witches embrace the pull. They sharpen their rituals, strengthen their circles, whisper ancient words through frost-covered windows. They see December as a battlefield where the old world must defend itself. Others, like me, feel the conflict but dread it. There's a moment every year, usually near the first snowfall, when the world goes impossibly quiet. No wind, no animals, no distant hum of human living, just silence, heavy and absolute. In that pause, the magic awakens fully. It's like a breath being held by something enormous and unseen. Even children feel it, though they don't understand. They look out windows with furrowed brows, as if questioning why the world suddenly feels bigger, stranger, charged with meaning they can't name. And the Christians, whether they know it or not, respond too. Their prayers grow louder, churches fill earlier, hymns ring with a force that feels less like tradition and more like preparation. Every word of worship strengthens something on their side, just as every ritual awakens something on ours. I've walked through December markets where holiday music played softly, families smiled, and snowflakes fell like feathers. Yet beneath the warmth, I felt the invisible currents clashing. Magic testing faith, faith pushing back. To everyone else, December is peace. To us, it is pressure. And every year that pressure builds until eventually something breaks. Most witches alive today have only fragments of the story, scraps of truth passed down through warnings, rituals, and scars left on bloodlines. But even the quietest lines in those stories carry weight, and they all point back to the same origin, the oath. It wasn't written in ink or inscribed on stone because it predates language, the kind humans read anyway. It existed when the world was wilder, when belief wasn't separated into categories like religion and magic. Back then, everything was connected. The sky, the earth, the spirits underneath, the forces above. And when those forces began to diverge, when one grew louder, structured, organized, and the other remained raw and ancient, that is when the oath was created. It was never meant to be a curse, though sometimes I feel it as one. It was meant as protection. But like all protections, it demanded something in return, loyalty, vigilance, and a promise that magic would never allow itself to be erased. Some say the oath was forged by the first witches. Others whisper that the earth itself demanded it. There are even darker theories that something older than humanity forced the pact, choosing witches as its keepers, its shield, its voice when the world would try to silence it. My grandmother once told me that the oath is not passed through teaching, it's inherited in the body the same way a heartbeat is. The moment a witch draws their first breath, the oath recognizes them, it waits, it watches, and when December comes, it awakens, not as words, but as pull, an instinct, a command woven into marrow. You don't hear it, you feel it, and ignoring it is like trying to hold back the ocean with bare hands. The oath also remembers history better than any book ever could. It remembers when bonfires burned for celebration instead of execution, when gatherings beneath the solstice moon were rites of gratitude, not hiding. It remembers when the earth was listened to instead of fought against. But it also remembers when the tides shifted, when a new faith rose, powerful and structured, claiming authority over what had been shared. Temples became churches, spirits became demons, rituals became crimes, and witches, once honored, became hunted. It didn't happen overnight. It took generations, slow, creeping, deliberate, but the oath felt every step of that displacement, and like a wounded animal, it demanded a response. Not revenge, not hatred, resistance. And December became the mark of that resistance, not by choice, but because that was when the other side grew strongest. Prayers intensified, celebrations spread, light multiplied, and magic, true magic, refused to vanish quietly. Some witches believe the oath binds us to war every winter. Others believe it binds us to balance, that December is a cosmic negotiation rather than a battlefield. But regardless of interpretation, the truth remains. No witch can escape it. Not even those who wish to live quietly or those who feel exhausted by generations of inherited conflict. The oath does not care about want. It cares about continuity. There are moments, especially during the longest night of the year, when I feel it most intensely. It's as if something ancient presses its hand against my spine, reminding me that I am not merely alive, I am chosen. And that word, chosen, is heavier than it sounds, because it is not an honor. It is a duty, a burden carved before memory, before language, before I ever became Evelyn Mara Vale. Sometimes I wonder if the oath could speak aloud in human tongue, would it say it protects us or that we belong to it? Because as December deepens, the line between protector and prisoner grows thinner, and every year I feel the oath pull harder, like something waking after centuries of silence, asking if we are ready to fight again. People love simple explanations. Witches attack because we hate Christians, because we envy them, because darkness always seeks light. But reality is never so clean. The truth is far more complicated and far more uncomfortable, especially for me to admit. The pull toward Christians in December isn't born from emotion. It's biological, spiritual, instinctive. It is reaction, not choice. Their faith does something most of them never realize. When Christians gather, when they sing, when they pray with conviction, something radiates from them. Not metaphorically, literally. It appears like strands of light, sometimes soft and tender, sometimes fierce and blinding. It changes the air around them, shifts the unseen currents that witches are attuned to from birth. The stronger the belief, the stronger the force. And while most humans walk past without sensing anything at all, witches feel it like fire on exposed skin. Some Christians glow faintly, like a lantern left burning for comfort, but there are others, rare ones, whose faith burns like a beacon. You can sense them from a distance, long before you see them. Their presence can silence a spell mid-incantation. Their prayers can disrupt rituals. Their hymns can make the ground beneath a witch's feet tremble. To them, it's devotion. To us, it feels like erasure. Their faith isn't passive. It spreads, reaching outward, claiming space, as if the unseen world belongs to it by right. And maybe that is where the conflict truly began. Not with hatred, but with survival. Because every time Christian belief grows stronger, a little of the old magic retreats, like shadows pulling back from dawn, not extinguished, but forced to shrink. There is also something else, something witches rarely speak aloud, even to each other. That radiance Christians carry, it's not just powerful, it's familiar. The energy feels ancient, connected to the same source that birthed magic long before religions existed. That's what makes it so disorienting. It doesn't feel foreign. It feels like something we once knew intimately, something we were separated from. And sometimes, in the deepest winter nights, when prayers ring through the cold air, there is a strange echo inside me, like memory rather than fear. Some believe witches and Christians were never meant to be enemies, that we were once part of the same great power before something fractured the connection. Others say the divide was intentional, a test or punishment. But no matter the theory, the result remains. When Christians strengthen their faith, witches feel both threatened and drawn to it. Drawn the way a moth is drawn to flame, not out of love, but out of recognition. And recognition can be dangerous. So when people see witches act against Christians in December, they assume it is hatred or evil. But beneath every confrontation, every instinctive defense, every clash of unseen forces, there is a deeper truth, the kind no one wants to say aloud. We are not fighting them. We are fighting what their faith awakens in us. The part of us that remembers something we were never supposed to forget. I remember the December when I first understood the weight of choice, though at the time I called it failure. The night was frigid, the kind of cold that seeps into bones and refuses to leave. Snow fell thick and silent, muffling every sound except the faint ringing of distant church bells. I had been walking for hours through the forested outskirts of a small town, guided by instinct and the pull of the oath, which had awakened earlier that evening with a sharp insistence I could not ignore. There was a girl, no older than 14, kneeling by her window, praying with a devotion so pure it struck me as dangerously radiant. I could feel her energy like heat against my chest, tugging at something buried deep within me. I approached her carefully, shadowing the edge of her garden, my fingers itching with spells I had prepared. I had rehearsed this many times in my mind, imagining every movement, every incantation, every flicker of light that would bend to my will. But none of my rehearsals had prepared me for the moment when I finally saw her face. Pale and earnest, illuminated by the soft glow of the candle in her windowsill, she looked at me with eyes that did not see my power, my intent, or my duty. She simply looked at me, and in that instant, I saw something impossible, recognition without judgment, curiosity without fear, and a smile that carried warmth I had thought impossible for anyone outside our kind to possess. I froze. My words died on my tongue. My spells wavered, flickering like dying flames. The oath inside me shifted, quivering with expectation, demanding obedience, demanding action. But I could not move forward. Something about her presence, something in the steady rhythm of her prayer and the honesty of her hope, clashed violently with the command of the oath. I had been raised to obey, trained to follow instinct without hesitation, and yet in that moment, obedience felt like betrayal, not of her, but of the very essence of what I had believed I was bound to uphold. She whispered a word of thanks into the empty night, not knowing my intent, not knowing the shadow that had fallen near her window. Her voice carried a purity that seemed to ripple through the air, touching the part of me I had long buried, the part that remembered innocence, mercy, and choice. I did not attack her. I could not. My heart, for reasons I still cannot fully explain, overruled the oath. The instinct to obey, the pull of ancient duty, recoiled against the warmth of her humanity. The consequences were immediate. The magic I had relied on, that had always bent to my will, recoiled. Spells failed. Energy twisted back toward me in small, painful ways. I felt the oath tighten around my chest, a reminder that disobedience is never without cost. And yet, even as I staggered back into the shadows, I knew something profound had shifted. That night, for the first time, I realized that the oath, for all its authority, could not fully control the human heart or the witches. I had failed, yes, but in failing, I glimpsed a truth I had never allowed myself to face, that mercy, hesitation, and even defiance have a power all their own, and that not all battles are fought with fire and fury. The girl never saw me leave. She never knew the danger brushing against her window, and yet I left with a weight heavier than any punishment, the weight of understanding that the oath demands much, but it cannot command everything. That night became a lesson written into my blood, a memory I carry every December, whispering in the cold, power is never absolute, and even witches can falter when confronted by light. There is a truth that no one whispers outside the covens, no one dares admit even in private, and yet it hangs over every December like a shadowed star. Witches do not attack Christians because we hate them. That idea is comforting for outsiders. It simplifies the conflict, paints the world in clear lines of good and evil. But it is a lie. The reality is far more complicated, far more uncomfortable. The attacks, the confrontations, the instinctive tensions we feel all spring from something older than prejudice, older than fear, older than the divisions humans try so desperately to maintain. It is instinct, inheritance, memory, and survival all tangled together. And it is December that makes it unavoidable. The world we live in now is a fraction of what it once was. Magic has been forced into hiding for centuries, relegated to whispers, old books, and the memories of bloodlines like mine. But the oath remembers. Every year, when the nights grow long and the first snow falls, the oath awakens with the same force it did generations ago. It presses through the bones of those of us born to carry it, demanding vigilance, demanding acknowledgement, demanding that we face the ever-encroaching light of faith that Christians carry. They do not understand it, and often neither do we. But the effect is undeniable. Their prayers, their gatherings, their songs, they awaken a ripple in the unseen world, one that we cannot ignore, one that we cannot simply walk past. We do not act out of malice. We act because in those moments we are reminded of everything that has been lost. A world where magic could exist freely, where the spirits of the earth were honored instead of suppressed, where belief was not partitioned and controlled. December is a month that forces remembrance. It forces confrontation. The pull toward Christians is not a desire to harm them. It is a manifestation of a history of displacement, of survival instinct reaching forward through centuries. When their faith grows strongest, it challenges us. It challenges the oath, challenges the balance, challenges the remnants of old magic still breathing beneath the surface of the world. And because the oath cannot ignore imbalance, we respond, even when every part of us wants to resist. No one talks about this truth because it is uncomfortable, inconvenient. Admitting it means acknowledging that we are not monsters, not mindless aggressors, but custodians caught in a conflict far larger than ourselves. It means recognizing that the tension is not personal, it is structural, inherited, inevitable. And yet, no matter how rational we try to be, no matter how we attempt to temper instinct with mercy or hesitation, the pull remains. It is stronger than fear, stronger than desire, stronger than conscience at times. It is December itself, the way it bends light, silence, air, and energy, and the way it presses old laws into the hearts of those bound to them. Even now, as I speak these words, I feel it pressing against me. The secret is simple and terrible. We do not attack Christians because they are wrong, because they provoke us, because we hate them. We attack or feel compelled to act because the oath remembers, because the world remembers, because December reminds us that the old ways are fragile and that the balance between belief and magic is thinner than anyone admits, and that knowledge, that memory, is a weight carried in silence, one that no witch can truly escape. I am not telling you this for pity. I am not seeking forgiveness, nor do I expect understanding. I am telling you this because the veil is thinning and the truth refuses to stay buried any longer. December comes again, as it always does, bringing with it the pulse of the oath, the hum of magic, the echo of every choice made across centuries. And with it comes the awareness that nothing you have been taught, nothing you have assumed, nothing you have prayed to protect is as simple as it seems. There is a rhythm beneath the snow, a movement beneath the lights, a pulse beneath the hymns that resonates with everything I am. It calls to me. It calls to every witch who has been born into the bloodline of remembrance, and it will not be ignored. If you feel it, if the air thickens around you, if shadows shift where no light should fall, if your prayers are answered with a silence so deep it almost becomes sound, know that it is real. Know that it is not imagination, not fear, not coincidence. Know that we are watching not to harm indiscriminately, but because the same force that stirs in your faith stirs in us, and the collision is inevitable. You may think distance will protect you, or isolation, or ignorance. It will not. The pull reaches further than sight, further than sound, further than understanding. It reaches into the marrow of existence itself, weaving threads that tie us, however unwillingly, to one another. I am not the enemy you were warned about, though my kind has long been cast as such. I am the consequence of history, the echo of choice, the embodiment of something older than fear or faith. And yet, even knowing this, even feeling the command of the oath beneath my ribs, I hesitate. Every year I hesitate. Every year I remember the girl whose prayers changed my path, the moments when mercy outweighed instinct, the nights when defiance became survival. And every year, the oath does not forgive hesitation. It does not excuse compassion. It does not understand what it means to see a human soul and recognize it as familiar and still remain bound by obligation older than life itself. So I tell you this now, not as threat, not as warning, but as confession. When December deepens, when the nights stretch long and the frost etches itself into the earth, there is a choice before me that no witch ever takes lightly: to obey or to resist, to act or to refrain, to honor the oath or to honor the memory of what it means to have a heart capable of mercy. And every year, as I stand at the edge of that choice, I wonder who truly holds the power, the witch, the faith, or the oath itself. And you, who read these words, who feel the chill in the telling, who sense the rhythm beneath the normalcy of your December, What would you do if the force that demanded obedience could not be reasoned with, could not be bargained, and could not be ignored? What would you do if the very presence of your faith, your devotion, your belief became the axis upon which an ancient conflict spun once more? Would you shelter, flee, fight, or surrender? And would you have the courage to face the truth, whatever answer it reveals? Because I am here, I am watching, I am bound, and the oath does not yield.